Hi, welcome back to the course, and now we are working on a piece by Dowland, a very great piece by Dowland. If you are following us in the repertoire in our course from beginning to end, this will be your first piece by Dowland, and he was one of the masters of our instrument repertoire. He did not write for the guitar. Back then, when he lived, the guitar had some importance in France and in Spain, but he lived in England and the guitar was very seldom played in England, especially as a solo instrument. Dowland's lute, however, is so close to the classical guitar that adapting his music for our instrument is so easy, and it does sound quite a lot like the lute, at least for laymen. So the normal people that pay tickets and buy CDs, they are not that expert to differentiate a good guitar performance from a lute performance. But there are some things that you can be more historically accurate than we can do here. First of all, you see the piece. His name is Lady Laiton's Almain. Go and search for what is an Almain. I'll start up saying that this name, Almain, is kind of miswriting, is a misspelled version of the Allemande or Allemand or Almand. Well, back then, not only lots of people couldn't write well or did have limited writing skills, but also there was not so much standardization on writing. So it was quite common to find the very same dance with the very same characteristics being written differently in several countries in Europe. So look for what an Almain in and what an Almain is, and probably you'll find that this is exactly the same thing as the Allemande. Great. It's a dance piece, so it's important to make it being able to be danceable. The lute has one right hand technique that we can use in the guitar as well, that is very good to make dances sound more clear. This is called the figueta. It comes from an expression when people do that with their hands, it's a fig. So when they put their thumb between your I and M, it looks like a fig. And in the early days, this right hand technique did use the thumb like that, and it did look like a fig. However, John Dowland himself was one of the lutenists who made the transition from the very same figueta, but instead with the thumb in, he used the thumb out, which is very similar to our guitar, classical guitar, standard right hand technique. So by playing the classical guitar as we play, we are playing figueta style at first, but the real thing that makes a figueta is not using the thumb alternating with the eye, is that the thumb must be played every time where there is a strong beat or a strong fraction of the beat. Let me explain what that is with a better example. Let's go to measure 1. I'm starting measure 1 itself, not from the previous note. So we have a chord, then we have two notes, and each one lasts half of the beat. So when that happens, the first note is stronger and the second note is softer. Then the stronger half you play with the thumb and then the softer with the I. Let's go to another measure. Let's go to measure 5. So we have a chord, then all the other beats, they are divided in halves. So the first half, strong, and then the second half with the I. Wow, Alvaro, does that mean that I'll play the C sharp with thumb, the A with the index, and then again the C sharp with the thumb? That's right. And it does make the hand look a little bit as if you're playing with a pick. And this is one of the oranges of the figueta. The figueta intended to make playing with the fingers sound as you were be playing with a pick. Okay? So you may not use the figueta here, which I think is a pity, because it's a very interesting technique, interesting not only for technique's sake, but also for musicality, especially for musicality. That will make your performance of Renaissance pieces sound much more faithful to how it sounds on the lute or how people listen in lute recitals. And that may be interesting, especially for your musical career. And this is a very easy piece. So if you don't apply that now on an easy piece, probably you are wasting the chance of a lifetime. Because if you want to do that, apply that in a hard piece, probably that will be late enough for you not to do that. So I strongly recommend you to practice with the figueta in this piece. But even if you don't, you must at least make it sound like the figueta. So let's go back to our measure 5. With the figueta, it sounds. Okay? So if you're not using the figueta, you must stress the notes on each beat as strong as you reach with the thumb, like. It's not exactly the same thing. However, it's better than not respecting this characteristic of the Renaissance music. About the figueta, let me tell that the first and second parts quite easy to recognize when to use the figueta because we have very similar situations. But on the third part, it's a little bit tricky. So I'll begin there on measure 13. So A, it's the first beat with the thumb. Then the F sharp, second beat, also with the thumb. Then G weak, part of the second beat with I. Okay, then in F sharp we have 2 notes, so we can use the thumb on the higher one, but we are using the thumb on the lower one. Then weak, fraction of the beat, I, and then the D with the thumb. Okay, then on the next measure, 2 notes, but you should use the thumb in one of them anyway. Second beat, the thumb, weak part of the beat with the index, and then the chord. Well, you have noticed that the thumb will move a lot. And one thing that you may practice for you to make this movement safer is to practice very easy right hand exercise, which you play first, always alternating thumb and index. First, both fingers on the 6th string. Then the I will, little by little, note by note, go until the first string. So 6, 6, 6, 5, 6, 4, 6, 3, 6, 2, 6, 1. Only the index moved. Now it's time for the thumb to move, and only the thumb will move, and he will also go to the first string. So then we start 6, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Then again, only the index finger will move, but back to the 60th string. So 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6. Then once more, only the thumb will move back to the 60th string. So 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6. Exercise from beginning to end. Okay, do that with the metronome. Make sure that you're playing it right before speeding up. That will increase your aim a little bit more. And okay, then there is one more tricky measure, measure 19. Although we have here 16th notes, notice that there are hammer-ons and pull-offs, there are slurs. So for the right hand, we will play as if there were only 18th notes, because the right hand itself is not playing any note in the quarter of the tempo, any 16th note. So it's chord, I, 2 notes, I, 2 notes, I, 2 notes, I, and thumb. So it is quite easy. Just chord, I, chord, I, chord, I. And use the slurs, okay? Don't get mixed up just because it's written some 18th notes here. Fine. One more thing that I must tell you about Dowland is he's from the Renaissance, but if you look exactly at his dates, he's living the transition from the Renaissance to the Baroque. And he did use some Baroque technical composition features in his music, but he wants it to sound as in Renaissance style. Therefore, the music is polyphonic. So this is not an accompaniment. It should sound, although not the brightest melody ever, it should be played as a different line. So it is good for you to sing along each line so you can understand better how to shape them as individual melodies. But mainly what's most important is, although you may be thinking right there and there what do with the thumb, the melodies A, G, Fis, and D. So never A, Fis, Fis, A, Fis, G, that never. So the melody, there is a melody A, G, Fis, and D, and then a melody which is Fis, Ha, Ha, E, Ha. So different melodies, okay? And that throughout the piece. I'm just choosing the hardest part to notice that. One more thing is Because it's Renaissance, although you may recognize, oh, but here I find some tonic and subdominant, there's a dominant of the dominant, that's not the intent. One of the things that Dowland do use from the Baroque is he organizes the notes in a fashion very similar to tonal harmony, but it's not exactly the same. And it can be tricky for you right now recognize these very subtle differences, but the most important thing that you must know now is that you must shape the melodies like an arc. It begins soft, calm, to the middle it gets tense, and it ends softer. No matter what's happening in the harmony, okay? Which is not exactly tonal harmony what's happening here, but there's a discussion for another opportunity. So softer, you go more to the middle, then soft again. Okay? Not like if it were tonal music. It adds a drama that this music doesn't have and was not intended to have. Okay? So shape like an arc. Melody is always beginning calmer, to the middle going tense, and ending calmer. All melodies. That's a very interesting piece. Beware also, practice slowly, note by note, especially the third part, not to be mistaken by this different tuning that we are using here, the 60th in D, which is the most common scordatura that we use on the guitar repertoire. So practice slowly, note by note, think slowly, and then play. Think before playing, okay? And especially on the third part, because the first and the second doesn't use any other note on the 60th string besides the open D string. So that won't be that hard for you to read. But on the third part we have an E, so we use it, though this is where it can get tricky. Sometimes you will be forgetting that the 60th is in G and play as if it were an open string, but then it will sound a different note. It's also very important for you to recognize the tempo, especially for you to apply the figata itself or a substitute of the figata. So work slowly with the metronome, counting the tempo out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3. 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and so on, so you can understand better when is the beat and where you should either use the thumb or do an extra accent to sound as if you would be playing with the thumb. Have fun and enjoy this Dowland piece.